Famous for driving out Nazi German forces with his partisan fighters during World War II and his conflict with Stalin. Today's video is all about Josip Broz Tito, a man who was revered and feared by many around the world. Watch the video till the end as we tell you the details about Josip Broz Tito's life. But before we do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any of the amazing content we have in store for you. Early life. Now, coming back to the video, Josip Broz Tito was born on May 7, 1892 in Kumrovec, a village in the Hrvatsko-Zagorje region of northern Croatia. It was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire's Kingdom of Croatia-Slavonia at the time. Tito was born and raised in a Roman Catholic family. His father, Franjo Broz, was a Croat, whose family had lived in the hamlet for 3 centuries, while Maria, his mother, was a Slovene from Podstreda. Josip spent a large part of his childhood at Podstreda with his maternal grandparents, where he became a favorite of his grandfather Martin Javersic. By the time he returned to Kumrovec to start school, he had learned to play the piano and spoke Slovene better than Croatian. Tito began primary school at Kumrovec when he was 8 years old in July 1900. He went to school for 4 years, failing the 2nd grade and finishing it in 1905. As he was not particularly good at education, Tito struggled with spellings throughout his life. Joining the army. After school, Tito worked for his maternal uncle and then on his parents' family farm. But soon after, World War I started and he was drafted into the military. Tito got really good at it and rose through the ranks to become the youngest sergeant major in the Austro-Hungarian army at the time. During a Russian raid near Bukovina on March 25, 1915, Tito was wounded in the back by a Circassian cavalryman and captured. He was taken east to a hospital erected in a historic monastery in a village on the Volga River near Kazan. His injuries were severe and he endured pneumonia and typhus throughout his 13 months in the hospital. During that time, he learnt Russian with the help of 2 schoolgirls. After recovering and spending a year at a prisoner of war camp in the Samara Governorate, Tito was transported to the Kungar camp near Perm, where he was utilized to maintain the recently completed Trans-Siberian Railway. Tito was given command of the camp's whole prisoner of war population. During this time, he discovered that camp officials were stealing Red Cross supplies provided to POWs. After complaining about it, he was beaten and imprisoned by the prison guards on orders of officials. After staying imprisoned for a few months, Tito snuck out of the unsecured POW camp in June 1917 and boarded a goods train going for the city after a crowd burst into the prison during the February Revolution. Post-war years. Tito was now a fugitive from justice. The authorities were now searching every train leaving Russia for the escaped POWs. However, Tito managed to get out of the country thanks to his flawless Russian. Tito returned to the Balkans in 1918 and joined the Communist Party of Yugoslavia in the newly founded Kingdom of Yugoslavia. He went on to become the General Secretary and then President of the League of Communists of Yugoslavia. In the immediate post-war years, Tito was largely seen as a communist leader who was fiercely loyal to Moscow, second only to Stalin in the Eastern Bloc. However, in truth, Stalin and Tito didn't see eye to eye, as Stalin believed Tito was too free. Yugoslavia independence. After the Nazi invasion of the area in World War II, he headed the Yugoslav guerrilla movement known as the Partisans from 1941 to 1945. By the end of the war, the Partisans had taken control of Yugoslavia with the help of the invading Soviet Union. Unlike other East Central European states liberated by Allied forces, Yugoslavia achieved independence from the Axis with only limited direct backing from the Red Army. Tito's leadership role in liberating Yugoslavia not only strengthened his position within his party and among the Yugoslav people, but it also caused him to be more insistent that Yugoslavia had more room to pursue its own interests than other bloc leaders, who had more reasons to acknowledge Soviet efforts in assisting them in liberating their own countries from Axis control. Despite the fact that Tito was technically Stalin's ally after World War II, the Soviets had established up a spy ring in the Yugoslav party as early as 1945, resulting in an uncomfortable collaboration. The leader of Yugoslavia. After the dust settled, Tito became the principal architect of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, serving as Prime Minister from 1944 to 1953 and President from 1953 to 1980. In 1948, Tito was the first member of Cominform to resist Soviet leadership, and was also the first leader during Joseph Stalin's era to leave Cominform and start his own socialist program. Tito's Yugoslavia had a strong devotion to traditional Marxist ideals during the years after the war. His governing style was very monarchical. His excursions across Yugoslavia in the former royal train mimicked the royal tours of the Karađorđević monarchs and Habsburg emperors, and he followed the traditional royal ritual of being a godfather to every ninth son in Serbia. After complaints that the tradition was sexist, Tito adjusted the ritual by becoming a godfather to every ninth daughter as well. Like a Serbian king, Tito would visit whenever a family's ninth child was born to congratulate the parents and offer them gifts. The feud with Stalin. Tito's decision to undertake large-scale repression against government rivals was a crucial result of the tensions between Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union. This repression was not restricted to known or suspected Stalinists, but also included Communist Party members and anyone who expressed affinity for the Soviet Union. Tito's distance from the USSR allowed Yugoslavia to receive U.S. help through the Economic Cooperation Administration, which was the same U.S. aid agency that managed the Marshall Plan. This was not liked by Stalin, and he sent a number of killers to kill Josip. But fortunately for Tito, his security was always active and guarded him against every threat. Tito then famously told Stalin to stop sending people to kill him. He mentioned that his security had caught 5 of them already, and if he didn't stop, he'll send one to Moscow that will definitely do the job. Following Stalin's death in 1953, relations with the USSR improved, and Tito began to receive Comcon assistance. Tito took advantage of the East and West rivalry in this way. Rather than picking sides, he was key in launching the non-aligned movement, which would provide a third route for countries looking to avoid the East-West divide. Changes in Yugoslavia. Tito embarked on a tour of the Americas after that. Tito met President Dwight D. Eisenhower at the United Nations General Assembly meeting. Tito and Eisenhower discussed a variety of topics, from arms control to economic development. Eisenhower said Yugoslavia's neutrality was neutral on his side. Tito responded that neutrality did not mean inactivity, but rather not choosing sides. Thanks to the steps by Tito, many Yugoslavs were exposed to the West and its culture, leading them to see themselves as culturally closer to Western Europe than Eastern Europe. This prompted a change in country's formal name to the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia on April 7, 1963. With this, private enterprises in the country were fostered, and religious expression was substantially loosened. In 1966, the Yugoslav Roman Catholic Church was granted new freedoms by the Vatican, thanks in part to the death in 1960 of the anti-communist Archbishop of Zagreb, Aloysius Stepaniak, and modifications in the Church's stance to combating communism resulting from the Second Vatican Council. The deal also eased tensions that had stopped Yugoslavia from naming new bishops since 1945. Economists in the former Yugoslavia championed the Illyrian model of market socialism. Employees owned and managed their own businesses, which competed in open and free marketplaces. Tito managed to keep racial tensions in check by delegating as much power to each republic as feasible. SFR Yugoslavia was characterized in the 1974 Yugoslav Constitution as a federal republic of equal nations and nationalities, freely united on the concept of brotherhood and solidarity in the pursuit of special and common interests. Each republic was also granted the freedom to self-determination and secession, as long as it was done legally. Finally, Tito granted significant autonomy to Kosovo and Vojvodina, Serbia's 2 component provinces, including de facto veto power in the Serbian parliament. Tito created a huge personality cult around himself, which the League of Communists of Yugoslavia maintained after his death. The Secret Police. Tito's secret police was modeled after the KGB of the Soviet Union. Its members were always present and frequently acted extrajudicially against middle-class intellectuals, liberals, and Democrats. Although Tito mercilessly eradicated any flowerings of nationalism that jeopardized the Yugoslav Federation, his Yugoslavia was founded on respect for country. Nationalities were guaranteed the right to use their own language under Yugoslav law, although ethnic Albanians' ability to proclaim their ethnic identity was severely constrained. Ethnic Albanians made up over half of the political prisoners in Yugoslavia, who were imprisoned for expressing their ethnic identity. The public personality. People thought of Tito as a good person loyal to the cause of Yugoslavia. Furthermore, Tito was a well-known public personality both in Yugoslavia and internationally. He was regarded as a unifying figure, since his internal policies ensured the peaceful coexistence of the Yugoslav Federation's countries. He rose to worldwide prominence as the head of the non-aligned movement, alongside India's Jawaharlal Nehru, Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser, and Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah. He received 98 foreign awards, including the Legion of Honor and the Order of the Bath, for his outstanding performance in both Cold War blocs. Death. Tito began to reduce his influence in the day-to-day functioning of the state after the 1974 constitutional revisions. He continued to travel and accept visits from other countries, including a trip to Beijing in 1977, where he reconciled with the Chinese government that had previously labeled him a revisionist. Chairman Hua Guofeng, in turn, also paid a visit to Yugoslavia in 1979. Throughout 1979, Tito got progressively unwell. Tito was hospitalized on January 12, 1980 at the medical center in Ljubljana, the capital of the SR Slovenia, with circulation difficulties in his legs. Tito's own defiance and reluctance to allow medics to perform the necessary amputation of his left leg resulted in his death from gangrene-related infection. 12 years after his death, Yugoslavia imploded and slid into a series of inter-ethnic wars when communism in Eastern Europe crumbled. Well, that's it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed the content of the video. If you did, show some love and hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss out on our amazing and informative videos in the future.